The Count of Monte Cristo Volume 1 by Alexandre Dumas. The Unwitting Courier. Edmond Dantes, a young sailor with bright eyes and an easy smile, stood on the deck of the Pharaon, feeling the sea breeze ruffle his hair. He was returning from a mission that seemed simple enough: deliver a packet to Elba. Yet, this packet was no ordinary missive. It contained sensitive political information that could destabilize the current regime, making Edmond an unwitting pawn in a high-stakes game of power. "Edmond, you've returned," exclaimed Morel, the ship owner, as he clapped Edmond on the back. "And with the cargo safe and sound, I hear?" "Yes, monsieur," Edmond replied, his voice filled with the pride of duty fulfilled. "The last commission of Captain Leclerc, a man of honor and a mentor to me, was a success." Captain Leclerc, a respected figure in the maritime community, had entrusted Edmond with this final task, emphasizing its importance with his dying breath. The responsibility weighed heavily on Edmond, who had served the captain loyally and saw this mission as a testament to their bond. Morel's eyes twinkled with approval. "You've done well, my boy. So well, in fact, that there's talk of making you captain." Edmond's heart leapt at the prospect, but not everyone shared his joy. In the shadows, Danglars, the ship's purser, watched with a scowl. "Captain, eh?" he muttered to himself. "We'll see about that." His envy stemmed from his own unfulfilled ambitions and the belief that only he deserved to rise through the ranks. Not a mere sailor like Edmond. Meanwhile, Fernand, a tall, dark-haired man with a brooding presence, approached Edmond. "Congratulations on your success, brother," he said, though his eyes betrayed a hint of envy. "Mercedes must be proud." Fernand's jealousy was more personal, rooted in his unrequited love for Mercedes and the life he envisioned with her, a life he saw slipping away with Edmond's every achievement. Edmond smiled, thinking of his beloved. "Yes, she awaits me. We are to be married soon." As Edmond left to meet Mercedes, he reflected on his journey to Elba, the strange glances of the islanders, and the cryptic comments about the packet's recipient. A sense of unease crept into his thoughts, a premonition that this task was more than it seemed. Mercedes, standing in the sunlit square, felt a surge of both excitement and apprehension. Edmond's imminent captaincy promised a future of prosperity and adventure, but she also sensed the undercurrents of envy and malice that threatened their happiness. She pondered whether their love could weather the storms ahead. Unaware of the conspiracy brewing, Edmond met Mercedes in the square. She ran into his arms and they spun around, laughing like children. "Oh, Edmond, when you're captain, we'll have such a life," Mercedes exclaimed, her eyes shining with dreams of the future. Edmond kissed her forehead. "Nothing will stand in our way, my love." But as fate would have it, something did. On the day of their wedding, just as Edmond and Mercedes were about to exchange vows, soldiers burst in. "Edmond Dantes, you are under arrest," the leader announced, his face impassive. The church erupted into chaos as Mercedes cried out, "On what charges?" "Conspiracy and treason," the soldier replied, as Edmond's world came crashing down around him. In that moment, Edmond realized that delivering the packet to Elba had been no simple errand. It was the beginning of a treacherous plot that would lead him to the darkest depths before he could ever hope to rise again. A wedding interrupted. The sun shone brightly over Marseille, reflecting the joy in Edmond Dantes' heart. It was his wedding day, and the air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the sound of laughter. Edmond, dressed in his finest suit, stood beside his beloved Mercedes, who was radiant in her white gown. Friends and family gathered around, eager to celebrate the union of the young couple. As the ceremony began, a hush fell over the crowd. Edmond took Mercedes' hands in his, and they exchanged vows of eternal love and fidelity. The moment was a blissful culmination of their love, untarnished by the shadows of doubt or the whispers of conspiracy. In the warmth of the sun and the embrace of their loved ones, Edmund and Mercedes were united in a bond of love and hope for the future. The depths of despair. In the shadowed confines of Chateau d'If, Edmond Dantes endured his solitary confinement, the silence of his cell only broken by the occasional visit from the jailer. On one such visit, the jailer announced the arrival of the deputy public prosecutor, Villefort, who informed Edmond that his case had been reviewed. Despite Edmond's ignorance of the letter's contents, Villefort coldly stated that Edmond's release was not possible, as the implicated party was of significant stature. As time passed, Edmond became a mere number among the forgotten prisoners. It wasn't until one night that a persistent scratching sound piqued his interest, leading him to discover Abbe Faria on the other side of the wall. Initially skeptical of the voice, Edmond's curiosity led him to engage with the old man. They shared knowledge and plotted an escape, with Faria enlightening Edmond about the world and speaking of a hidden treasure. When Faria's health declined, he confided in Edmond the location of the treasure of Monte Cristo. After Faria's death, Edmond seized the opportunity to escape, taking on the identity of the Count of Monte Cristo as he swam towards freedom, his actions reflecting his newfound resolve. An unlikely mentor. As Edmond set foot on the solid ground of the island, a rush of emotions besieged him. The sea breeze carried whispers of freedom, yet the weight of his past and the fire of vengeance burned within. He was no longer Edmond Dantes, the sailor. He was now the Count of Monte Cristo, an enigma born from the depths of betrayal and suffering. In the bustling port, a figure caught his eye, a man whose gait and countenance bore a striking resemblance to his former shipmate, Jacopo. This man, however, was not Jacopo but his brother Giovanni, who had heard tales of Edmond's misfortune and now sought him out, driven by a sense of brotherly duty and the hope of aiding him in his quest. Edmond, now the Count, greeted Giovanni with a guarded warmth, recognizing an ally in this serendipitous encounter. Together they walked through the streets, the Count's eyes absorbing every detail, every face that might play a role in his grand design of retribution. The Count's first act of transformation was to visit a renowned tailor, where he commissioned garments that would reflect his new identity. Clothes that spoke of wealth and power, a stark contrast to the tattered rags of his imprisonment. With each stitch and fold, the Count shed remnants of the man he once was, emerging as a figure of mystery and influence. As night fell, the Count stood atop a hill overlooking the city, the lights below mirroring the stars above. Here, he vowed to wield his newfound power with precision, to unravel the lives of those who had wronged him, just as meticulously as they had woven his downfall. The Count of Monte Cristo was not just a man. He was the embodiment of justice and vengeance, and his journey had only just begun. The Great Escape. The stone walls of Chateau d'If loomed over the sea, a grim sentinel guarding the despair within. In its darkest cell, Edmond Dantes, once a sailor full of hope, now wore the heavy chains of betrayal. His only light in this abyss was the friendship of Abbe Faria, the wise prisoner who had become his mentor. One fateful night, as the moon cast a silver glow on the water, Faria's life ebbed away, leaving Edmond with a final gift: the secret of a treasure beyond imagination, and a plan for a daring escape. With a heavy heart, Edmond switched places with his deceased friend, wrapping himself in the burial shroud. As the guards tossed the body into the sea, believing it to be Faria's, Edmond's heart raced with the thrill of freedom and the chill of the deep. He plunged into the waves, the cold water a sharp contrast to the fire of vengeance burning within him. The birth of the Count. The sun dipped low over Marseille, casting a golden hue over the bustling port. A man of distinction disembarked from the ship, his presence commanding attention. His eyes, keen and discerning, surveyed the scene before him. With an air of purpose, he traversed the streets, the memories of his unjust imprisonment fueling his resolve. He sought no inn, nor did he pause to reminisce about past acquaintances. His focus was singular: retribution. As night embraced the city, he approached a modest dwelling. A soft knock, a creaking door, and he stood before a figure from his past. "I come not to dwell on bygones, but to offer a chance for redemption," he spoke, his voice steady and resolute. The man before him, taken aback by the unexpected visit and the promise it held, could scarcely believe his fortune. "Who brings me this opportunity?" he inquired, his curiosity piqued. "A benefactor who believes in new beginnings," was the reply, cloaked in mystery. With that, the visitor vanished into the night, leaving behind a trail of intrigue and the prospect of a changed fate. The man known as the Count of Monte Cristo had set his plan in motion, a plan crafted with precision and an unwavering commitment to justice. The web of retribution. In the dimly lit room of an old Marseille inn, Caderousse sat hunched over a table. The door creaked open, revealing a tall, cloaked figure with an air of enigmatic grace. The Count of Monte Cristo, unrecognized by Caderousse. "Good evening, Monsieur Caderousse," the Count greeted, his voice smooth and calm. "You possess an item of great importance to my dear friend, Edmond Dantès?" Caderousse's hands trembled. "Yes, I do," he stammered. "But who are you to inquire about Edmond?" "I seek not information, but to gauge the honesty of those involved in his betrayal," the Count replied, taking a seat across from him. "What do you know of the conspiracy that led to his unjust imprisonment?" "It was Fernand and Danglars," Caderousse whispered. "Out of jealousy for Edmond's success in his betrothal to Mercédès, they crafted false accusations of treason against him." "And your involvement?" the Count inquired. I remained silent. Caderousse confessed, his voice a mere whisper. I was aware of their scheme, yet I did nothing. The Count's gaze was penetrating. "What actions will you take to amend the injustices you've permitted?" Caderousse met the Count's eyes. "I wish to return this purse, to begin making amends." The Count nodded, his smile inscrutable. "A commendable decision. Yet remember, redemption is a journey, not a single act." As the Count departed, Caderousse was left in solitude, clutching the purse, a token of his remorse and a step toward atonement. In the silence, he pondered the intricate web of retribution that was just starting to unfold, and a newfound resolve stirred within him. He realized that the road to redemption was fraught with challenges, but it was a path he was now determined to tread. Justice and vengeance. In the bustling streets of Paris, the Count of Monte Cristo, once known as Edmond Dantès, stood cloaked in mystery and wealth. His eyes, sharp as an eagle's, watched from a distance as his former friend, Fernand, now known as the Count de Morcerf, paraded through the crowd, basking in undeserved glory. The Count's plan was set in motion when he anonymously revealed Fernand's darkest secret, the betrayal of Ali Pasha, to the press. As the scandal erupted, Fernand's world began to crumble. His wife and son abandoned him. Meanwhile, Danglars, the once wealthy banker, found himself caught in a web of financial ruin. The Count had skillfully manipulated the stock market to lead Danglars into bankruptcy. The man who once reveled in his riches now faced the bitter taste of poverty. As the Count watched the downfall of those who had wronged him, he felt a twinge of satisfaction. However, the weight of his actions began to bear down on him as innocent lives had been caught in the crossfire.